Welcome to episode 102 of Fathers of the Grind. This is Tim Nestor. Just wanted to give you guys a quick intro to this episode. We are going to cover a few categories today as we start our Game of the Year debates. So yes, this episode's longer than usual, and that's for a reason. That's because we have a lot of categories to cover over the next few episodes, and we have a lot of opinions, and we want you to hear them all, apparently. So we have special guests Kyle, Neely, and Rudy Regalado on the show with us, and today we're going to go through categories like just plain fun, most disappointing game, most creative game, most stylish game, and then we actually had to end it because of our schedules. And then, so next time we record, we will be able to tackle things like best music, visuals, story, things along those lines, and then we'll try to close things out with it'll probably be the longest episode of all of them. We're going to talk about best individual platform game, and best DLC, best multi-platform game, and then best overall game. So we have a lot to cover. It's a lot of fun to debate all this stuff. We all have differing opinions, but it's been a lot of fun. And so thanks for sticking with us. Hopefully it gives you some quality listening over the holidays. So let's jump right into part one as we begin to tackle Game of the Year 2017.
Who is your daddy? I am the father.
You fathers will understand.
My father taught me many things.
I got an idea. How about you all sit there quietly while I make dad noises?
So let's do this. Episode 102 of Fathers of the Grind. My name is Tim Nestor, and I'm here, as always, with Derek Teague. Say hello.
Hey.
Derek. Be nice. Be nice. Be nice. I know it's Christmas time, which makes you grumpy, but you got to be kind to the
I'm
listeners.
excited to
Also
be here.
with
I've
us,
been waiting for this show for a while, so I'm excited.
yeah. So have I. We've talked about it, and we're finally here. Part 1 of 3 of our Game of the Year awards show. And joining us is Kyle Neely. Hello, Kyle.
Hey, how's it going, everybody?
I know you guys can't hear this, but he has a magnificent mustache that he's rocking for this holiday season. It's fantastic. If you're watching on YouTube, then you can see it. But if you're just listening, just know it's amazing.
It's fantastic.
Also joining us is Rudy Regalado. I hope I say your name right because I've said it many times.
Yes,
is that correct?
You got it right, man. Hey, everyone.
All right. Rudy, we're so glad you can join us too. Now, Kyle joined us a little while back to help us rank the best years in gaming, adding that voice of reason to the ridiculousness that was the other three of us. So thanks for coming back, Kyle. And Rudy, this is your first time on the show, so thanks for making time.
Yeah, thanks for
tonight.
having me, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah,
Looking
thanks for
forward
having
to talking
Yeah,
games
so
with you
in
guys.
case any of you who don't know, these guys are part of our community. We've all kind of connected through various large podcast groups and video game groups online for, usually on Facebook, typically, fans of the same podcast show or whatever it is. And then as things happen, drama unfolds in the group or whatever it is, and then spin-off smaller segments of groups start to form where you start to realize, hey, I don't really like all 9,000 of these people.
Yeah,
Maybe
I
just a
remember
few
that.
hundred. And so Derek was part of that original group, and he pulled in people like me, Kyle, and Rudy, and many others to join some of these smaller groups. And then out of that actually spun this podcast a couple years ago. And so these guys, we've quote unquote known them for a couple of years now, and it's been great to talk video games and trash talk other things too. So it's been great. So, thank you guys for joining us. I know you're both avid gamers. You play pretty much every console and as many games as you can, so that's why you're here, because we like your opinions. You're
Way too
fairly
many.
level-headed, and as long as you agree with me, you're right. So,
Nobody agrees
I'm looking to
with
be
you.
right. I'm looking to be right today, but oh man, yeah.
I do want to state before we start, I am disappointed in the overall selection of who is on this show, and here's the reason why. 3 out of the 4 of us are indie lovers, and that is not okay. I am outnumbered.
It's gonna be the year of the
Oh
indies.
man, guys, let me just tell you. Whenever I listen to the show and I find myself agreeing with Derek 9 out of 10 times, and then Tim starts talking about an indie, I'm like, no, Derek, stop, Derek. I want to agree with you, but I can't on this one.
so I made the mistake earlier this year of inviting our good friend Dan Phillips. Inviting him wasn't the mistake, but inviting him to talk about best game of 2016 was the mistake.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
then it was just 2 against 1 on all things Dark Souls related. So that was not great.
Yeah.
So this time, Derek, I've stacked the deck in my favor.
Yeah, I know.
SteamWorld Dig 2 is going to be your game. I'm just kidding.
Game of the year.
Yeah.
Game of the year. There it is. All right, so let me go over some rules real quick. We're not going to dig really into, like what we're playing now, that kind of stuff. We're going to jump right into the categories for Game of the Year 2017. So I'm going to give you the rules. Some of the categories are just the four of us sharing our picks for that category because it's not always debatable. Sometimes it's just what was most disappointing to you or what was your favorite backlog game. And sometimes it's going to be a list that we create together. And so what we did was we've got a huge list of nominees. And by the way, as we talk, you can throw a couple more nominees on there. What we'll do is you can add as many nominees to the list as you want. And once we have that list complete, we feel like, okay, we've nominated everything. Then we're going to take turns. And like Derek said, because we're all communicating across a distance on Google Hangouts here, we'll try to make sure we each have a turn to nominate a game to cut. And if you have good reasoning behind it, state that case. But if anyone wants to defend that nominee from, to stay on the list, you have a chance to do that. So depending on what kind of case you make, hopefully the four of us can kind of come to an agreement relatively quickly on each one. And if we can't, then we take a vote. If there's a tie, it goes up to Metacritic for the tiebreaker pretty much in every case. So that'll be the way that we... And by the way, if it comes around the second time, it's pretty much going to be out. If two people have nominated it to be off the list, it's pretty much gone. All right, once the list is down to 10, then we start at number 10 at whatever random order it's in, and we start comparing 10 to 9, 9 to 8, and we work our way up the list. So that's how this is going to go. That's why we're splitting it into 3 shows. We're only going to cover 5 categories to debate this week because that would be a 5-hour show. And that'd be crazy if we tried to do it otherwise. So, any questions? You guys good?
I'm good.
I think we're good.
All right. Well, let's dive right in. I'm going to let our guest kick us off. Our number 1 category to start things off is just plain fun. Nothing to debate here, just to kind of get us going, get us talking about games a little bit. We'll start a little more positive before we go all negative and hate each other. So let's start with Rudy. And Rudy, why don't you give us 3 games that you would call, and it doesn't have to be in any particular order, however you want to do it. What would you say are 3 games that you would pick as your just plain fun games of the year?
Right, and these have to be games that came out this year, or just that I've been playing this year, or
they do indeed. Everything is from this year except for
Gotcha.
backlog game or most anticipated game. Everything else is 2017.
So I will start off with a game both of you guys have talked very highly of, which is Mass Effect Andromeda.
Nice.
Now, I have not actually completed this game yet, but it's really, I never got bored once. I was loving that game so much. It's just, as you guys know, way too many games.
Mm-hmm.
But I keep coming back to it every so often and jump in, do a few missions. I haven't gotten to have sex with any aliens yet, which I'm kind of bummed out about. So
what a shame. What a real shame.
I really haven't done much story in that game yet at all because I've been so distracted by I want to explore this whole world and do everything. It's just fun to explore, man. I know everyone went crazy over that game. It sucks and it's terrible. But if no one had told me that, I would have just thought it was another Mass Effect game, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's a great ton of fun. I'll probably come back to that maybe January. Hopefully finish that up.
When things slow down a bit.
Yeah, exactly. So I'd say that's my first one.
January is clearing up now, so.
It is, Sam. Thankfully.
Well, I think January. Is anything big coming in January that I can think of? I don't even know.
The only one that we've talked about this, Ni no Kuni 2 got moved to March, right?
Yep.
Monster Hunter's coming out.
Monster Hunter Worlds is probably the most marquee one. The one I'm excited about is Lost Sphere, but we can talk
Me
about
too.
that.
Lost Sphere's
gotcha.
great.
So Rudy, what else?
Okay.
That's a good pick. That's actually on my just plain fun list. Didn't make my top 3,
perfect.
so I agree with that. What else do you got for your other 2?
So my next one that I put way too many hours into was Battlegrounds, PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds.
Nice.
I started playing this a few months back when it was first launching, and it was really buggy, really glitchy, but I had never played like that whole battle royale kind of thing. I think it's still new for a lot of people, actually, including myself. I started playing it, and at first, I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't having fun because I would just land, loot a bunch of buildings, play for a good 10, 15 minutes, and then just die. And I was like, this isn't fun. But started playing with my buddy who was really good at it, giving me tips. You kind of learn how to survive. And then once you getting 1 kill in Battlegrounds makes you feel as good as getting like 10 in Call of Duty or something. That's at least how I feel.
I agree.
You get 5 kills by the end of the match, and you feel like you just freaking destroyed everyone. It feels great. So that's definitely my second one. Man, I I think 100 hours in that game without even realizing it.
Wow.
Just like a quick
Nice.
pick up and play kind of game.
Yep.
But every match
Nice.
is like 20 minutes, so that's how the time builds up so fast. So I'd say that one for number 2. What's the number 3 one? I'm assuming no one had that on their list.
No.
I didn't.
I figured.
Mm-mm.
Oh, okay. Here we go. I got a good one. So last one, I picked Super Mario Odyssey because I beat that game and I had a great time with it. But I haven't played a game like I beat Zelda and I love that game, but I don't find myself wanting to go back and do the Korok seeds. Like I did all the side quests, all the shrines, everything. But Mario, just to pick it up, get a few moons here and there, it's just dumb fun. It's so great. Like I was at the doctor yesterday. Pull out your Switch, get a quick 3 or 4 moons, put it away, and that's just how I've been playing that game. So yeah,
Totally
I
agree.
think that's a good one to round that out.
Nice.
Well, yeah,
those are
those are
good.
great.
Those are all. I mean, I haven't played PUBG obviously, but Derek
Yeah.
has, and from what I've heard from others, great pick for just plain fun. I mean, it's kind of what
yeah.
it's all about.
Yeah,
right?
it
That's why it's
really-
so popular.
it
I
really
just
is, yeah.
real quick, not to sidetrack us, but I was playing
Yeah.
like my second match, and this guy wasn't paying attention, so I walked up behind him and I killed him, and I was like, "Yes, I killed him!" And then I started looting him, and then once I got done looting, I wasn't paying attention. Well, apparently I was in the like electric field. So right after I killed the guy,
yeah.
right after I looted him, I died from electricity.
If you guys are NFL fans, I just pictured Derek like Dan Orlovsky from the Lions when he was in the back of his end zone trying to look for an open man, not realizing he had run like 15 yards out of bounds. He
Yep.
was still looking.
Oh yeah, that game.
frustrating.
I can't tell you how many times I've died either by you get a good kill, you're all excited, and I always do the whole like I kill someone and you push to talk. You're like, yeah, you suck, you're the worst, and then you get down to loot them and someone kills you. That's happened to me a million times. Or like you mess around for too long in a like a little town and you're like, I want to loot this building, I want to loot this one, and then next thing you know the bear
game
explodes
kills
on
you.
and you just
Yep.
die. Yeah, so. Yeah,
All
the
right, we'll
game's
get into some more.
definitely
We'll get into
dumb fun.
some more PUBG talk in a little bit, I am sure. Let's jump over to Kyle. Why don't you give us 3 of your just plain fun games for the year?
Sure. Yeah, I've got a few just plain fun games that I had no right putting as much hours into that I did this year. Fortnite being one of them. If you would have told me when this game was announced a few years ago that I'd be playing this game, I probably would have laughed at you. But here I am. Probably put like 60 or 70 hours into it.
Yeah.
It's really fun. I don't like games that you build stuff in. You know, I'm not a very like physically creative person. But have a lot of fun in this, and the building mechanics are really, really easy, and just have a really good time playing that game. Really good with a crew of people, really good with strangers, and I don't like playing with randos. So, any of y'all been playing this game at all this year? Or?
I haven't, although the recent, I think it was a DLC announcement, kind of reminded me this game even came out, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
I haven't
they
tried it
released
yet.
the Battle Royale for free.
Some of the modes are free, so you don't have to like pay to get into this early access or anything. Like the Battle Royale mode, which is just PUBG. And apparently a less janky version of it if you're talking about just console versions.
Yeah.
And then they just announced a 50 versus 50 mode or whatever, which is also free, I believe. So
Gotcha.
yeah, if anyone's interested for a multiplayer game right now, that's the one. I usually don't like multiplayer games, but just having a blast with this one, co-op
Nice.
and competitively.
I hear that it's a little more like it's not as like serious tactical. I don't know what the right word is, but is it more like
It's
arcadey?
supposed,
kinda?
yeah, it's supposed to be more arcade.
It's more arcadey, yeah. Yeah, it's more
Okay.
arcadey. I think PUBG, like you died in just a couple shots, right? You're
Sure,
kind of
sure.
spongy in this game, so.
Gotcha. Okay, I gotta try that.
That's what noobs like me need. You know, I need to take a lot of
too.
hits
Yeah, me too.
so I can look around like, who's
Yeah.
shooting me?
Exactly. I need about 7 shots in me before I realize who's shooting me. I'm like, oh, there you are. All right.
That sounded like some kind of drinking statement.
It
Okay.
does, yeah.
What else you got on your list for just plain fun?
You know what? I put way too much time into Fire Emblem Warriors this year on the Switch.
Nice.
Talk about a really easy game just to play anywhere, on the go, while you're in the bathroom, while you're
We've
waiting
all
in line
done it.
somewhere, anywhere. That's
Yep.
That's the power of the Switch, everybody. Come
Yes.
on.
Yep,
But yeah,
I'm with you.
Fire Emblem Warriors is just an awesome game. It's just a really easy way to just jump in, kill 1,000 dudes, and then jump out and do something else. You know, it takes little investment, but still you can rack up a lot of hours into it and not even see all the content in the game. It's just very content rich, this game. You know, I think I'm at like 25 hours and nowhere near through the extra mode that's outside of the story mode. So
Interesting.
planning to go back to it a lot next year.
Nice. Yeah, I
Any of
can
y'all been
confirm the Switch being one of the best new things to do in the bathroom. You guys, I can confirm
Absolutely.
It really
that. So
is.
my wife now, she used to say when she would see me heading upstairs to our bathroom, she could tell what's going to happen. She's like, "Listen, don't she would say before she used to say like no Netflix, like you get back down here before too long." Now she says, "Don't take your Switch in there with you."
are all wives just against the Switch? Like
They
I
are because there's no stopping. It's just
There
like,
is
yep, I'll
none.
play and then I'll move over here and I'll keep playing. Yep.
Oh man.
Go ahead, Kyle. Your last one. You're just
And
playing
I think
fun.
I'll stay on the Switch a little longer. And I didn't play a lot of Mario Kart 8 on Wii U, but I did play a lot of it on Deluxe this year with just friends. I was bringing it everywhere that I was going. I always had an extra pair of Joy-Cons with me, and we were playing at work. I threw tournaments for my employees with Mario Kart at work and stuff like that. It was just a lot of fun. And
Nintendo
man, talk about a game that just yeah, whatever. Talk about a game that just keeps giving. It just brings a lot of people together, and I love games like that. It's just an awesome game that I've been playing.
That just about anybody's like, I'll play, right? Even people who don't play video games. It's
everybody. Yeah, I brought it over to Thanksgiving to some people's house, and none of these people are gamers. But the second it was Mario Kart, everybody was a gamer. So that's the magic of Nintendo. So
unless you play
Well,
with me, then
I want to make sure you guys
Right,
understand
that's
and
true.
all the listeners understand. The only reason why Kyle likes Fire Emblem Warriors and Mario Kart is because of nostalgia. It's not because they're fun.
It's true.
because
He's
of
right. Yeah, it's not
nostalgia.
because they're really fun.
Yeah.
It's just because it reminds me of simpler times. Everybody.
Yeah, it's just nostalgia.
'Cause IGN
Yeah. If
got
Kyle
paid
could
off,
just kind of step
obviously.
back and look objectively, he would hate those games.
I know. I should. God, I really need to rethink my life.
All right, Timmy.
All right.
Your top three. What do you got?
All right, so for my just plain fun, I totally agree with Rudy. I put Super Mario Odyssey at the top of my list for just plain fun because
Yeah.
I beat that game with 300 and something moons or something like that, maybe 200 and something. Not too many more than you actually have to beat the game. And I just kept playing. I didn't care that the credits had rolled. I didn't care that I had completed it because the game does open up a whole bunch of new things for you to do. You basically go and you destroy these giant bricks in each level, and then they'll spit out all these moons all over the world, each level again, and then you go out and start hunting them again. So I think Nintendo did a brilliant job of creating a colorful, fun. We'll talk more about the quality of this game, but it's just fun. Like every moment in that game is just fun. Even if it turns out that the game wasn't overall as good as other games, and it did, by the way. But even if that had been the case, it's still just flat out fun. And I love. I don't say too much more about it right now, but Odyssey's at the top of my list for just plain fun. And I'm Super Nintendo this time. My second one is Mario plus Rabbids. I think Mario plus Rabbids was right out of the gate just flat out fun. Now, did it end up by the end of the game having a ton of diversity? Not necessarily. It was mostly samey by the end of it, but that game was so fun, and both the atmosphere and the characters, as well as the very, very simplistic version of XCOM, was just super fun. And then the last one I'll pick is actually going to be Destiny 2. So not Super Nintendo this time, but Destiny 2, although it won't win pretty much, spoiler, most of my other categories, number one at least, it was a lot of fun. So getting on there and playing with a number of you guys who are listening, Derek, we played together a few times, and also just playing solo. That game just felt right. It was really fun to go from mission to mission. I liked doing a couple of the strikes and teaming up to do some of those things. So to me, Destiny 2 is at least worth mentioning for the fact that it's just a fun FPS to play.
It's fun for a little while, for sure. And the mechanics are great in that game, man.
It's just fun to shoot stuff in that game. Shooting
really
things in
is.
that game is the furthest thing from its issues.
Shooting people in that game and talking with your buddies is like the best pastime.
That's what to me, like for a good 3.5 weeks or so, right before it was pretty much from that till Mario plus Rabbids. For that amount of time, or maybe I'm doing it reversed. Anyway, for that amount of time, I just had fun talking to people and playing and shooting things. So, and I mainly wanted to give it a shout out too, so people know that I do like Destiny 2 a lot. It just won't really be at the top of most of my other lists. So I wanted to give it some love here at the beginning. What about you, Derek?
So I don't have any Nintendo games, so I don't rely on nostalgia.
Because
I only like superb Master Race games that are on PC. So I went with
like
number
Hollow
3,
Knight, right?
Yeah, I love Hollow Knight. I went with Shadow of War. I played a ton of hours of that game. and most of it was just for the gameplay. Meaning, I wasn't really paying attention to the story. I didn't really care about the lore. Nothing. All I cared about was just killing orc after orc after orc. I got obsessed with recruiting. It was just a blast to play. It's just a fun game. It ended up being, I would say, going into this year, it was probably my most hyped game. It ended up being a little bit of a disappointment, and you'll see when I talk about my top 10 eventually. But it wasn't disappointing from a fun standpoint. It was just disappointing from all the other aspects. But just for plain fun, I would say Shadow of War lands in the 3 spot. The number 2 spot is Destiny 2. I put in over 100 hours, and like I've told some of you guys in the group, I enjoyed my 100 hours. I got to 100 hours in Destiny 2 way faster than I did in Destiny 1, but I kind of burnt out on it, and I think some of the decisions they made for the end game kind of hurt itself. But it's still a fun game. In fact, last Friday night, I was playing with Rob and my brother, and we were just shooting and talking like Rudy was talking about. We played for about 2 or 3 hours, and it was just fun. But the top spot goes to the game I feel is the most fun to play out of all games released this year, and that is Mass Effect Andromeda. I don't know. It's just a special game to me, especially even when you're playing on normal because of the RPG elements. It's more than elements. It's pretty strong in that game. Once you get OP and you're just flying around killing everything, and using your squad, and using strategy, and just, I don't know, it's just a lot of fun. I got lost in that game, and like I told Tim, I finished the game twice. I finished the campaign twice, and I took my time both times. Like, I didn't rush through, so I put easily over 100 hours into that game. Great game.
Nice.
Very
Definitely a
cool.
good one. Sweet.
All right, nice. Well, we're going to jump into the next category, which is most creative game. I'm going to give you guys a second just to look at the nominees real quick. For those of you listening, we've got a shared Google Sheet that has the nominees for each category, and then we're going to look at them. We're going to nominate one we're each going to take turns nominating one to get rid of, and then we'll debate it from there. So I'll let these guys take one last look and add one if they want to. And I'm going to, if I can get this to load up, I was going to share the community voting results for Just Plain Fun. But
I
for
added
some reason,
some indies for Derek there.
Oh, yeah.
attaboy.
Jeez Louise.
These two.
What is this? The most trash game? Is that what this list is? This is terrible. All right, I got a few on here I'll actually vote for, but
Yeah. It's creative. Oh yeah, I got it.
You sound like such a victim, you poor guy.
I know, right?
I'm gonna add something.
All right, so the community voted for Just Plain Fun, and if this would stop reloading, then this would go a lot smoother. It looks like we've got a winner in Super Mario Odyssey
Good choice.
for Just Plain Fun from the
Good
community.
choice, yeah.
So that is.
I'd be happier if it wasn't based on nostalgia, but you know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
and
what are you
just to
gonna do?
mention a few other ones real quick, games like Sonic Mania, which I've heard Sonic Mania is a blast if you love those Sonic games.
It's a fun game.
Of course, let's see, Puyo Puyo Tetris, Nex Machina, Everybody's Golf, Assassin's Creed Origins even got a pick there for Just Plain Fun, and a number of others. Those are ones that got multiple votes, but Super Mario Odyssey took the most votes for that one from the community. So I agree with that. I think that's people are smart. Okay, most creative game. Here we go. So what do I mean by this? This could be a number of things, but I'm looking at it as a combination of all the elements of the game that you would look at and say that was incredibly creative. Now, for me personally, I would weight things like story and visuals lower on the scale, although they can be creative too. I'm usually thinking more on the gameplay aspect, like what made me feel like, wow, that was an incredibly creative way to make me the player play this game.
Sure.
That doesn't mean you have to look at it that way. You know, you could pick it based on looks or whatever else. You just have to make the case for it. So just to kind of set the stage here are the nominees we currently have listed. ARMS, Golf Story, Hellblade, Lego Worlds, Mario plus Rabbids, Nier, Pyre, Snake Pass, Snipperclips, Zelda Breath of the Wild, Mario Odyssey, Horizon, The Sexy Brutale, Little Nightmares, The End Is Nigh, Doki Doki Literature Club. I don't want to have to keep saying that, so I hope that's not too many categories.
Change that to something.
Fortnite, PUBG, Persona 5, and Wolfenstein 2. All right, so this time, since Derek went last time around, Derek, I'm going to let you go first. Right now we've got, 20? That's 20 games. We need to get rid of 10 of these before we can rank these. So, Derek, go ahead and get started. Nominate a game to take off of this list.
Okay, I'm not going to just do it based off of games I hate. I'm just going to try to think of what's not very creative to me. I'm going to go with Lego Worlds, and only that's because I feel like it blatantly ripped off Minecraft and just put a Lego shell on it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I don't have any argument against that because I didn't play it. So either one of you guys have a strong opinion?
Not at all. No.
Okay, taking that one off.
Nah, not my thing.
Okay, I'm going to recommend that we remove... this is going to sound kind of mean because I do love this game. Horizon Zero Dawn. I think it is creative in a lot of ways, the setting specifically and the fact that it's these robot dinosaurs. But in terms of an overall experience, I felt like more like it was epic and cool and slick. I didn't feel like creative was the word.
It's a very good game, but it's not like something that.
I don't think it should be on the not top 10.
I feel like it's creative because of what you said. I feel like yes, it's your typical open world like action game, but I think it's pretty cool that they have robot dinosaurs. I don't know.
That's a good point.
I think that's the only thing that makes it creative, though.
I would say,
is the robot dinosaurs in the setting. You know, so like while I agree with you, Derek, but that's just one facet of that game.
Yeah, I would fight for several other games on here. Even games I don't like, I'm gonna fight for more than I would fight for Horizon. So, Timmy, you get it your way this time.
All right, so Horizon's off the list. Kyle, what about you? What would you remove from this list?
I feel like I have to preface by saying this. I think this game is amazing. I just don't know if creative is the word that I would use for it. Wolfenstein 2, I think it's a solid shooter. I think it's got an amazing story. I think it's got great voice acting and stuff like that. But I think you and I have the same kind of definition of creative, Tim, and I just don't think it fits the other bills of what creative is. At the end of the day, you're just shooting, and bad guys.
I'll argue this one because I added it, but again, if nobody supports it, I get it. The main reason I added it is because, and I'm not going to spoil the game, there's something very creative that happens halfway through the game that blew my mind, and not only was it creative story-wise, but it actually impacted the game, and you actually played the game differently from that point
They do add another layer of...
I thought it was creative from that standpoint as far as they kind of took what... I don't know, when I was playing Wolfenstein for the first 3 or 4 hours, I was like, this just feels like... it was fun, but it just feels like a shooter. And then when that thing happened, I was like... I even
There's
said
a paradigm
that was very creative. Like, wow, you guys kind of you kind of blew me away. And then it impacted gameplay. So that's why I added it.
The reason why I think it deserves to be booted off of the top 10 list is because it took too long to get to that moment.
Okay.
There are a lot of people who started this and then dropped off because so much of this game is still the same and not creative.
Okay.
All right, wait. I want to jump in because after Derek said that got me thinking a little bit. Now, what he said, obviously I'm not going to spoil it. That part, it does impact the game. That is very creative. On top of that, though, I just realized earlier on the game, there's a few things that happen as well that impact the game, and I haven't really seen games do this as well. In the beginning, you don't have as much health, and there's a reason for that. And as well as, how can I put this without anyone knowing what the hell I'm talking about? There's a certain thing he's wearing that also impacts the game, too. So when I think of all three of those things together, it kind of makes me understand a little more, at least, where he's coming from on this one.
Even the very beginning,
no other
when
shooters
he's
really
like
do that.
rolling around in a certain object.
Yep.
That's creative. But yeah, I get it.
Let's hold it for a second because
that part was kind of cool. Yeah, I agree with that.
Let's hold it for a second because it might squeak into the end of the top 10. I think we all agree it won't be at the top of the list, but let's just hold for a second on that one.
Okay.
Kyle, pick a different one.
Oh Jesus. That was. Let's see here.
He's like, that was my easy pick.
I know that was exactly. Yeah, now I'm scratching.
And if
my
you
head
want a
here.
second to look, Rudy, you can throw one out there too. You guys, one of you
I'm
can
gonna
just
take
pick
a
one.
look.
Yeah.
We
You
still
know
have
what?
Arms,
Okay,
Golf Story. Go ahead.
I
Go
wanted
ahead,
to
Rudy.
I
Yeah,
wanted to
go ahead,
put
Rudy.
I wanted to put Doki Doki Literature Club in there because it was kind of creative, but when I really think about it, there's a million visual novels out there with twists and turns, and so I guess I don't have to keep that on, but I just wanted to at least bring that one up.
You're the only one of the group who's played it.
I
We
just played it too. It was like I
we
just wanted to
rely on
squeeze it
you
in.
for that one.
Yeah.
Hey, it's free. I'll
It's interesting,
download it.
dude. Yeah, it seems like it's just like this really typical anime kind of story, but then it gets really wacky and it's really interesting. So yeah, it's a cool game to check out, and it's free. Yeah, like you said. So
Okay.
All right.
Kyle, you got another one that you're eyeballing to?
I'm gonna just go ahead and say Golf Story.
Okay.
Ooh.
It just disappeared off me.
Tim's gonna fight you on that one.
Tim's
You know,
like,
I really like Golf Story, but
Well, give me your
reason.
reasoning. Let's hear it.
You know, man, really, it's because I can't choose Wolfenstein. I guess that's my reasoning. But if I had to come up with one off the spot, like it's just it's a cool RPG that it just kind of swaps out combat for golf, which I guess would make it creative. So I'm not really making a point for it right now. I don't know. I don't know. That's the one that stood out to me on the list. I really don't have much of a reason other than that. So I think you should just say a reason to keep it on the list.
So I love Golf Story, and you'll hear me talk about it in other categories as well. But I don't disagree that it might not make the top 10 of most creative because really the golf gameplay it has been done before. The RPG elements have been done before. The graphics have been done before. So it's again, I'm not saying that it can't be a creative combination of those things. It totally is.
Sure.
But I think looking at the other games on this list, I'm okay with it being removed. I know Golf Story won't make the list for probably any of the categories. For me personally, it would be on my most creative list, but I'm not going to fight for it here just because, like, for example, something like PUBG I've never played, but I think that deserves to be on the top 10 just based on what it's done to the multiplayer shooter genre, for example, right?
Everyone copied it all year.
Exactly. So that's why for right now I'm okay with Golf Story coming off. That's totally fine.
I will say, as somebody who doesn't play Golf Story, I do think, and I'm not fighting to put it on there, leave it off. I'm just saying, I do think it is creative just because it's outside the box. So somebody went, I want to make an RPG, but I want to make it different.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, well,
I want to base it off of the Game Boy Advance version of Mario Golf.
Yeah, so it's pretty cool.
And that's why I had such a hard time coming up with why it's not creative, because it really is at the end of the day. But but really, as I'm looking at this list, it's just maybe not top 10. So
all right, Rudy, let's start with you again since you were last on the list there. Why don't you kick us off with the next round?
Let's see.
Something to take off.
Man, this is getting tougher here. There's a few that I'm definitely not going to take off.
Sure is.
How about, you know what? I love Little Nightmares, but let's take that off because so the way it plays feels like one of these other many games that are like 2.5D where you scroll across the level or whatever.
Does it control like that Yarny game? Because it looks like
kind of, but
I
feel like it kind of controls like that, but more so kind of like Limbo style like that maybe.
Okay. Yeah.
It's very creative in terms of like what you're encountering in the game and the story stuff, but in terms of the actual gameplay, I'd say we could take that one off. So,
you guys okay with Little Nightmares coming off the list? I've never played it, so.
Yeah, I think visually it's really, really, really awesome, but again, maybe creative isn't.
Okay. It's like a horror inside
a
Limbo, pretty much is what it feels like. So.
All right, I'm kind of going out of order here.
Like Inside or Limbo, yeah.
Kind of going out of order here just to keep things rolling. I'm going to suggest we remove Persona 5.
No.
Hang on.
I agree.
I haven't played it, but from what I've seen and read, you guys correct me if I'm wrong. I think you've all played it. I haven't.
I actually haven't played it. I'm with you.
It seems to me to be like a much better version of Persona 4 Golden. It seems a lot like that. When people describe the gameplay loop, it sounds a lot like Persona 4 Golden. So what is creative about that game?
I would say the art style.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's more style tthan anything, and I wouldn't even just say the art style. It's the menus. It's the way that the presentation, the way that your stat screen comes up after every single battle and what you win and stuff. It's just stylized, hyper stylized.
See, the third category we'll get to tonight is most stylish game, and
exactly.
even someone who hasn't played it, I'm going to fight for that one to be on there because it's incredibly stylish. So I would argue that belongs in stylish, doesn't belong in creative. But stop me if you think I'm
No,
going
go
too
ahead and
far.
take it off.
I'm gonna be
Okay.
the biggest cheerleader of this game, and I'm pretty okay with taking it off of creative. So
Okay. All right. And let's just open it up so we can start knocking these out. Anybody
Okay.
else? What else should we kick off this list?
All right.
how about Snake Pass?
I
I like Snake Pass.
Oh man, now we're all going.
Well, go ahead.
Oh
That was
wait, no,
I was
Kyle,
gonna
you said
say
Snake Pass.
Yeah, I was gonna say Snake Pass.
All
I'm
right,
fine with Snake Pass.
I don't know.
Yeah, the game.
All right,
The game controls weird, so that makes it creative. I don't know. I don't know.
Dude, I don't know.
Yeah,
I
put
think
it up
Snake
there.
Pass
Yeah,
deserves a spot, and I think it deserves a
Yeah, I
spot
agree.
because there's been no other games that have given a physics-based control of an actual snake. And if you've played the level and some of the puzzles and where you have to like grip onto the environment while you're wrapping yourself up, it sounds really weird what I'm describing, but it actually is really, really good. In terms of being a creative way to navigate through these puzzles and this environment. I think it belongs on there because it's not really an amazing overall game, but it's creativity.
I've never seen another game like that before.
No, it's completely new. It's completely innovative in terms of the physics and the way you control a snake. It doesn't control like any other platformer. I think it's gameplay-wise
Let's
very,
leave it on
very
there, then.
creative.
All right, so
I
we
have
got to
other
get
ones
rid
I'm
of
more concerned
4.
about fighting with.
What about End is 9?
What is
Who nominated
what
the
is
End
the
is 9?
End is 9?
I've never played that game.
I
yeah.
put the End is 9 on. It's it feels like Super Meat Boy again. It's by the same creator, so we can knock that
It
one
just
off.
came out on Switch, right?
Yeah, it just came out.
Okay.
It's really good. It's great. It is creative, but when I really think about it, it's from one half of the people who made Super Meat Boy, and it plays quite similarly. So we can take that off.
Okay.
All right, here's my thing, okay? And I'm a fan of, well, I'm not a fan. Like, I didn't love it, but I didn't think it was terrible, I guess is how I would say that. With our logic with Golf Story, like, oh, it's just an RPG, but, you're playing golf. Pyra would be the same thing. It's just an
Oh
RPG
no, I knew you were gonna say
that you're
one.
playing basketball. And
Okay,
I
yeah.
liked
Is
the
it basketball,
gameplay.
though?
I thought it was creative. But I'm saying if you're going to use that logic with Golf Story, apply it to Pyra. Unless you can
I guess
sell
it
me
is
on
kind of like
why
basketball,
Pyra.
but it also feels like rugby / hockey, and
Yeah.
then I
Can
think the lore and the story and the characters also lend itself. They all work together towards creative, in my opinion. In addition to the game.
This is probably the number one that I'll fight for. So I'll just say personally what I think about it. I think that yeah, I get what Derek's saying about in that term, okay, you have your one mini game here versus this one, but to me, there's so many other things that are super creative about this game. Like I guess this could be like a combination of like Horizon had creative story. A game like this has creative gameplay, but the story in this game to me is like I've never seen anything like it before. Like not even in movies, video games, nothing. That's probably the
So
the
most
story
creative
is
thing.
fascinating.
So
Yeah.
what you're telling me is you read, because I skipped through all that bullcrap to get to the gameplay. They talk
It was
way too
it was
much.
so much reading. You're absolutely right. But even the way like it's been done before, the way you kind of navigate the map and you found this and you have a whole story thing going on. I know it's been done before, but I guess the combination of everything.
I'm fine with Pyra. I was just trying to say, hey, if you're gonna wax Golf Story, sell me on Pyra.
All right, I'm gonna
if
make
you
a
all are
suggestion to cut.
strongly for Pyra, keep it on there.
Yeah, I think Pyre deserves a spot on this list. And I'm with Rudy. I'll fight for that one too.
Okay.
I'm going to go ahead and suggest to remove one of my nominees, and I think we should go ahead and get Wolfenstein 2 out of there, even though you guys made a good point about how they provide you with some interesting ways to play. It just doesn't feel like... When I played it, the last thing I thought was this is creative. I was blown away by a major story moment, and I was delighted by the kind of twist that it introduces a new gameplay element, or 2 or 3.
Yeah.
But overall, I didn't feel like what a creative experience. I thought it was cool.
It's
I
a
thought it was
story-based
stylish.
corridor shooter at the end of the day.
So I'm going to
Yeah.
suggest that Wolfenstein 2 goes off, and I'm also going to volunteer a nominee of mine, which is the Sexy Brutale, which I've been playing on Switch. I love this game already. I'm going to talk about this game some more. This game is super cool. It's a murder mystery game. It's kind of like... it's an isometric adventure game. Think kind of like Clue in some ways, but you control time, so you can go back and observe what happens and manipulate what happened in the past to try to save all these people that are in this casino called the Sexy Brutale. Very creative, very stylish. We'll talk about stylish for that in a second. But I'm willing, based on the other games that are on here, to say Sexy Brutale can be kicked off as well as Wolfenstein 2, and that would leave us with one more game to remove for the top 10.
God, this hurts, but I think the next game has got to be either Zelda, Mario, or Nier. And let me explain why. You know how big of a Zelda fan I am, but oh my god, I don't even feel like I feel right saying stuff like this, but um,
Hey,
Zelda,
before you go any further, Rudy,
yeah,
before you go any further,
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
going to second your pick of Nier because I was pretty close to saying let's get rid of Nier.
yeah. I think that might be easier choice than the other two because Zelda does kind of do a lot of new stuff. So yeah, never mind that one. Maybe either
We're going to be
Nier or
talking a
Mario.
ton about Mario and Zelda in upcoming categories.
Yeah.
I don't think we can remove those from this.
Why?
Even
Why
if they're
do
towards
y'all
the
like
bottom of the
snipper
list.
clips? That's trash. Why do y'all like it? You gotta tell me.
It's just super creative, man. Again, another game I've never played anything like. If you explain that game to someone, they're gonna be like, "I gotta try this." Like, what the hell? Well, maybe not you, Derek, but
I can guarantee you that I won't say it.
You know what it is? It's a very simple game mechanic that they brought into a ton of different gameplay elements and creative ways to solve puzzles. It's in my opinion, it is the most creative use of multiplayer, like co-op play of the year.
Yeah.
So I think it deserves a spot on the list simply because it does co-op like pretty much no other game. And even though it's a very, very simple gameplay mechanic, you can kind of cover over each other's characters on the screen, and when you hit the button, you cut that shape out of their character to try to make shapes to conquer each level. It's very, very creative. I mean, a game like Snipper Clips, this kind of category is really the only place it's going to succeed.
Yeah.
I think it deserves a spot. I'm with you on Nier going. Some creative moments in there, but really kind of in the end felt like a slick anime experience.
Sure.
I did like the different perspectives of the story they tell as the game goes on. But when I compare it to, let's say, Mario or Zelda,
Yeah.
it didn't make me kind of lean back in my seat like those two games did at all.
Well, last second before you cut that one, if I look at this whole entire list, the only two that I don't feel are nearly as creative as the rest is Nier and Mario plus Rabbids. Like, what is Mario plus Rabbids really doing that's
Fair.
so new?
I
fair.
would
You guys-
cut Mario plus Rabbids before I cut Nier.
I would too.
Also,
What about you,
just
Kyle?
real quick, and I'm not saying that again, I'm just trying to follow a lot of y'all's logic. This is not a category I really care about because I'm not creative. But that being said, I look at a game like Hellblade and I immediately think that's a creative game. But by the logic that we're following on a lot of these games, the gameplay for Hellblade is not creative at all. It's actually pretty stupid. Well, you know what? I take that back. I'm gonna stop myself. They do some creative things. It's just
I think
bland.
the gameplay is dull.
Everything
Yeah, but
about
it's
that
creative.
game except the combat is creative, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think
that's what I'm saying.
I think to play the game is bland, like you guys said. But yeah, what you're doing, like, okay, trying to put the puzzle pieces together is so boring. But the thought of that, and then going up the stairs, like that kind of stuff, I was like, okay, I can't lie, that is creative. Hell trash.
All right,
For,
for the sake of time here too, I will throw support behind kicking Mario plus Rabbids off this list as long as I know in my heart it landed at number 11, because
Yeah,
it really
definitely. That makes
is
sense.
it
Yeah,
really is
that's
XCOM light. I mean, if we're being honest, it's just
Yeah.
XCOM light.
It's
It's
So
very creative
is.
for the Mario universe, that's for sure.
it's a creative it's a creative use of two IPs, right?
Absolutely.
That don't
Yeah.
really belong together. That
That's
when
true,
people
that's
heard
true.
the leaked rumors about it, they scoffed at what a dumb idea.
Yeah.
I was one of those. I thought it sounded dumb, but it turned out to be a really, I think, creative combination of two IPs. But
There's a hard-
based
there's a
on the
hard
other
one to
games
choose
that are on
too.
here, and we just fought for Pyre and for Snake Pass. We got to get rid of something. I say Mario plus Rabbids goes.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm down with that.
I'm okay with that too.
All right, so we are now left with 10 games in this list. We have ARMS. Let me organize these alphabetically here. Here we go. ARMS, Fortnite, Hellblade, Nier, PUBG, Pyre, Snake Pass, Snipper Clips, Mario Odyssey, and Breath of the Wild. All right, so we're going to work our way up from the bottom here, just going alphabetically. Okay, there's no ranking in place just yet. This is just alphabetical. Which is more creative, Legend of Zelda or Super Mario Odyssey?
Jesus
I'd say Legend of
Christ.
Zelda.
This is the hardest one.
Super
probably.
Mario Odyssey is probably, in my opinion, more creative.
All right, so let's make our cases here.
I just liked the way they utilize the hat and how you can literally become anything, and it changes the gameplay. It has an impact on the gameplay. I like the open world to a certain extent. I'll say open area, which they haven't done in a Mario game in a while. I just found it to be a very creative and fun game to play. But the main selling point would be the usage of the hat and how they implemented it to basically it changed the way you played the game. mean, come on, you're running around as a T-Rex in the first level.
What do you think, Rudy? What's your
I
case for Zelda?
really thinking about Mario, yeah, it is way more creative than I was giving credit for. But for Zelda, I don't think it's only creative in the sense of a Zelda game. I think just in general, like we can point out the big things everyone talks about, like the climbing thing. I know people sit here and try to tell me like that's been in so many games, but it honestly hasn't. Not in that way. I
Not
can't
like
think of
that.
one
That
game.
was
Not like that.
That was
No,
new.
not at all. And I have a buddy who tells me like, well, I can scale every peak in Skyrim. I'm like, yeah, well, you have to walk and jump and glitch your way to the top.
Oh,
Like, it's
yeah,
not-
that's not the
it's not the
same.
same. Yeah, I was like, it's not the same. So that'd be my first thing. The second thing, although I wasn't a huge fan of the Divine Beast in Zelda, I think they were extremely creative. Like I did miss the typical dungeons, but to think like you're inside this beast
Yeah.
and you're trying to
And
trigger
the
whole
puzzles
thing
that
and
are in there.
You're playing,
and it's all related
you're playing
to the
around with the
story.
space. Yeah.
Yep. The way you have to manipulate the beast and make it just ever so slightly this way and get here. I thought that was really creative, although I wasn't a huge fan of those. The last thing probably from Zelda. Let me see. One more thing. I guess just the way that the shrines were. Like you have a shrine. Like it kind of reminds me of how the moons are in Mario. Like you have a shrine that's like in plain view. Then you have one that maybe is a little hidden. Then you have one that you have to go on a 5-step quest for. Like I thought that was really cool how they implemented that. It's not just like really boring.
Not
I
the
just
same
stumbled
thing
upon it,
over and
so.
over. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's probably
All right,
my
so
main points.
So let's
to that.
hold on deciding between those two just yet. I'm going to move Snipper Clips below those two, working way up the list. I
Okay.
think, again, as much as I am glad it's on the top 10, I don't think it's as creative as those two.
Yeah.
Just because of the sheer volume of things in both those games that make you go, holy cow, how did they think of this, right?
Yeah, I
And
agree.
Snipper
Alright.
Clips, again, brilliant, simple. Same thing with Snake Pass. I'm going to move that one
I'll
below
tell
Snipper
you.
Clips.
I'll tell
actually.
you guys, and let's see if anybody else agrees with me. These are my bottom three. Snake Pass, Fortnite, and ARMS are my bottom three. And if you guys agree that they are your any of them are your bottom three, we should talk about maybe.
I mean, we could put ARMS down
Drop it.
there. I think ARMS is creative and it's in the way that you use the controls and stuff like that, and it's kind of flipped the whole fighting genre on its head a little bit. But like, it's not as impactful as some of these other ones creatively. I don't think.
How about Nier? Do we still Nier? I mean, just barely made the first cut. Do you really think
we almost cut Nier. Couldn't that be towards the bottom?
Yeah.
I mean,
No,
I love that
yeah,
game, but
to me, when it comes to creativity, Nier's at the bottom of this list of 10.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, I think
Derek?
Nier's trash in every way, but you guys
Jesus,
do whatever you.
This is gonna be a fun. This is gonna be a fun 3 podcasts. I tell you.
All right. Well, unlike the guy who was trying to argue with us the other day, I haven't actually played Fortnite, so I can't say either way on that one.
Yeah, I can't either.
We could put
so that's
Fortnite
going to kind
towards
of come
the
down
bottom.
to Kyle. And...
I mean, like it's a good
I played
game,
it.
and you get really creative in the way that you like set up your traps, and like because it's like half tower defense game, half like survive the night type of fort game, and like you can create these really elaborate traps and these like Ruth Goldberg machines, if you will, but it's kind of up to like how creative you are. So. But I don't mind putting that near.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's going to be below a lot of these games for sure.
Okay.
I'd put it. I would put it near the bottom. Yeah.
So far, just for you listeners, so you can hear what I'm doing, I've got Nier in the number 10 spot, Snake Pass at 9, Fortnite at 8, ARMS at 7, and Snipper Clips at 6. To me, it's a draw between Snipper Clips and ARMS. They're both very charming and creative in their own ways. I don't have a strong preference there between the 6 and 7 spot on those two. I like them both. I don't think they need to be any higher than that, though.
All right, I think I know which one should go next. Now, Battlegrounds is a very creative game, but if you really think about it, it just kind of did much better what the hell was it from? It was from DayZ and then the mod from that,
H1Z1.
King of the Kill, H1Z1, that's what it was.
Yeah.
So it is creative, but it kind of took that, made it better, made it more realistic. So I think it's a great game, but I think it's creative, but maybe not number 1, number 2, number 3.
And Derek, you're the only other one who's played this, so where do you think PUBG belongs? Assuming it's going to stay in the top 5. I'll give you guys one more chance to veto some of these picks.
Sure.
At the end, don't worry.
PUBG, I'm fine with it just being in there, but I don't care where it lands. Because while I do think it's real popular because it's kind of doing something new, it's still the way it does it isn't exactly well done, if I could say. It's not overall a great playing game. It's just a great idea right now, which could become a better game.
Well, and I went ahead and this is my suggestion. I'm happy to move these. I put Pyre at number 3, Hellblade at number 4. I think everything about Pyre is creative and new.
Yeah.
Yes, it is kind of a fantasy version of basketball, but to me it's way different than that too. It kind of has a more of a rugby and hockey type feel at the same time, but I don't know, it's very different, and it's got RPG elements.
Even the
to
idea
it.
behind what you're trying to do, escape the downside, and you're fighting,
your
rivals and stuff. I think all that together is what makes it so creative.
I mean, even the little map when your little carriage thing is riding around,
Yeah.
everything about it just makes me go like, these guys had quite a vision for what this game should be.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And to me, I agree with what Kyle said. Pretty much everything about Hellblade is creative except for the combat. I don't think the combat was bad, but boy was it repetitive, and it didn't do much. It didn't do much new.
The only thing that they did creative with the combat is they relied on the player's ears to hear when to do things. Meaning they had voices speaking to you to tell you to block or
someone's behind you. Yeah, turn around.
Yeah. That's worth mentioning. That is pretty interesting, right? That's not done before.
That's why I stopped talking about it when I was like, well, the combat's... Well, it really isn't. Not many games have relied on... Because they put the camera so close to the player, they purposely don't allow you to see everything, so they rely on your ears. So it was intentionally done, and it's what I would consider creative.
Hellblade obviously didn't make any of our just plain fun lists, right? You guys just heard those.
God, that
so
game
it's
was
not
fun
just
to
a
me.
flat out
Not
fun
a fun
game to play, but I'm glad we're acknowledging how creative the developers were in tackling the serious issues as well as thinking through some ways to make the gameplay at least somewhat interesting, right? And I'm with you. The puzzle solving in the environment was very tedious, but I think the perspective idea was a good one, just not executed super well, in my opinion. I just think Pyre is overall a more fun game to play, and every part of that is creative and colorful. It just really pops. And I didn't finish that game, but I put 5-6 hours into it and had a blast, and I think very creative. So now we're down to 2, Mario Odyssey and Legend of Zelda. You guys heard a case being made for both. I don't disagree with either of you. I love what they do in Odyssey with the environment and the hat. I love what they do in Zelda with the ability to explore and truly change the way I think of open world games and mark up your map and all the stuff you could do there.
I'd be okay with either order, to be honest.
Can I just make a counterpoint that I truly don't believe in, but I'm just going to throw out there just to see if it changes anybody's mind?
Let's hear it. Yeah.
Isn't the hat just the Kirby mechanic?
What do you mean?
Like throwing.
I mean, you're just taking the Kirby. You're swallowing an enemy and you're taking on its likeness or whatever. So like I said, I don't truly believe that, but it's kind of an idea that they played around with before.
The problem is I've never played Kirby, so
you're not missing much. So
well, it's something to think about. But yeah, why? I guess that's a good point, but why is it then when I play a Kirby game, I've never even liked that, and then in this game, I loved it so much.
I know. When I play Kirby, I'm always checking my watch.
Nostalgia.
That's exactly right.
Mario is not fun.
That's a fair point.
You're lying to yourself.
I'm going to suggest that on pure creativity, The Legend of Zelda was more creative from top to bottom than Mario Odyssey, at least by a hair. I think everything about that game and that franchise, that series, was turned on its head, whereas with Odyssey, they did a ton of new stuff. I'm never going to disparage what they did. It's amazing, but it still overall felt like Odyssey. Zelda Breath of the Wild almost felt like a totally new game compared to, and they nailed it, and they totally nailed it. So that's my pick is for number 1. Based on our list.
I'll go for that for number 1 too, because Zelda, there's a lot of creative ways that you can tackle things in this game. Like you can go to the desert, but you may not have the clothes for it yet, but you can do things to keep you cool, and we may have all done different things to do that. Whether it be stick to the shade or eat certain fruits or maybe find gear that was a little before you were supposed to. It's just there's a lot of different ways to really tackle every situation in that game. All the way to the point of lightning striking you when you're wearing metal, so you have to constantly alter yourself. There's just a lot of stuff that no game has ever thought about that's in Zelda. So
I agree with that.
Do Zelda 1, Mario 2.
Cool.
Okay.
I'm in
No,
agreement.
I feel good about that.
Nintendo
And that still gives Mario the props it deserves for all the creativity they have in the moons and the different
The
elements they have.
only
there, so.
one I think we're off on is I think Hellblade should be 3. And as a person who calls it Hell Trash, I still think it's more creative than Pyra. But I'm on my own on that.
Kyle and Rudy, what do you guys think about that?
I don't know,
Which
man.
game did he say?
He thinks we should
Trash.
swap Hellblade and Pyre for 3 and 4.
I'd swap Hellblade with Pyre, but that's just me. I like Pyre.
Yeah,
I like
well,
Hellblade.
I guess
I like
you got-
Hellblade more and what kind of it achieved in terms of just storytelling and audio and visual cues, and that kind of translate to mechanics.
What do you think?
I guess we're 2 and 2 then, because I feel this is probably one of the ones I feel most strong about. So.
Okay.
I think if you go to the Metacritic, it would be Pyra that wins anyways. But yeah, I think we're split between the two.
If we are split,
my pick
you
is
gotta go.
Pyre on this one. Does someone got Metacritic open? They can give us the tiebreaker.
I'll tell you.
It's off to the side.
It's right beside us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, I don't see Pyre.
I don't see Pyre on
Or
here
you
at all.
can just look it up.
Okay.
I'll look it
Pyre
up.
had an 85, and Hellblade.
Roll.
I'm gonna say
Hellblade had an 84. It had an 84.
Ooh.
So Pyre wins.
Just edged it out. Nice.
All right, so the official top 10 most creative list for Fathers of the Grind 2017. Legend of Zelda at number 1. Super Mario Odyssey, Pyre, Hellblade, PUBG, Snipperclips, ARMS, Fortnite, Snake Pass, and Nier. That's a good top 10 list of creative games. I like that. That's a good list.
Nice job, guys. I'm gonna tell Mike to clock me in. He owes me.
All right, so let's jump over to your personal picks for most disappointing game. Let's just pick one and talk about real briefly why it was disappointing for you. And Derek, let's start with you. What would you say is one of the more disappointing games for you? If you have a most, let's hear it.
Oh, this is probably going to be the easiest pick of all night, and that's going to be Hellblade, because people are like, "Oh, you're just hating on it because it's a smaller." No, if anybody, well, none of you knew me back when PlayStation 4 was being presented to us. This was before it launched. At the Sony show where they announced the PlayStation 4, if people remember, Hellblade was a part of that show, and I'm a big Ninja Theory fan. And when I saw Hellblade, and I think I told Tim this, I immediately was like, ooh, is this like the sequel to Heavenly Sword, or is it some type of spiritual successor? I was hyped, really hyped for that game. And as it got closer, I kept getting hyped, and I know everybody's like, well, Jesse White loves it more. Well, Jesse was following it more, but I was like 4 years ago, was starting the process of, I like this game, I can't wait for it to come out. I was a big supporter. And it came out, and I hated the puzzles, I hated the combat, and I thought the story's payoff was meh at best, but we can talk about that later. So overall, just a huge disappointment for me personally.
Okay. What about you, Kyle?
My most disappointing game. I don't play a lot of games that I hate, guys, so I'm kind of having to reach on this one. But it was For Honor. You know, I thought that this game was going to be awesome. You tell little Kyle 20 years ago, hey, you're going to be playing a game with Vikings fighting knights versus samurais. I would lose my mind. But I finally get my hands on it. I'm finally actually playing the story, and I'm using hard quotation marks right now for the people who are listening. And it was everything I didn't want in a game. Just period.
It was
and I just didn't
tacked
enjoy
on.
it. You could, well, the story, but like even like the combat and stuff like that, it was cool and it was fun. But like when you got it and people got it a lot quicker than other people, like the fights became really lopsided. The maps are really repetitive. There weren't very many of them. It's just, I don't know. It was one of those games that proved to me that like if you don't have a really strong mechanics, like your multiplayer focused game structure is just not going to work. And it did.
Yeah, actually,
I'm
just going to tail off of that because For Honor was my pick too.
Oh wow!
It's one of the few games that I that I tried that I really felt truly disappointed by. There's a number of games that I think if I had tried, they would have made the list. But for example, I never did play Yooka-Laylee. I haven't played the Life is Strange, prequel or whatever that is. And I assume those are based on what I've heard and read and heard from people who I trust their opinions. Those probably would have made the list, but I have to be fair and only pick out of games I've played. So I think For Honor is the one. 100% everything Kyle just said. I was kind of wanting a different experience. I don't think they did a bad job delivering the game they planned to deliver. It's just not at all what I wanted in a game that had, ninjas, Vikings, warriors, whoever else facing off. That was such a cool idea,
Awesome.
and I thought it was a disappointing delivery where it just became kind of this one-on-one fighting game that if you were not good at, it was not fun. So there you go.
Gotcha.
Rudy, what about you?
All right, so I have a few that I played maybe for a few hours each. I just want to rattle them off real quick. So I put Battlefront 2 up there. My God, how could they screw up this game this bad? I don't understand. I thought everyone was exaggerating at first. And I'm not even talking about multiplayer. I'm talking about single player because these days I have too many games to play. I'm like, let me just check out the single player, play it for a little bit. So my buddy had bought it, so I went over to his place. We're gonna play this. It's gonna be a great time. I did 1 or 2 missions, and it's just so poorly made. This is EA, I'm not even one of these guys who I hate EA. Loot boxes suck. I don't even care about all this stuff. I just wanted to play the campaign, but it was very, very disappointing. Anyway, we'll talk more about that another time. Sonic, another Sonic game that sucks. I'm not that surprised. It just doesn't
Sonic
play
Forces,
well.
right? Not Sonic Mania.
No, Sonic Mania was great. It just doesn't play well. It's not fun. Hey Pikmin was, after playing 3 amazing Pikmin games, I'm like, okay, platformer, a little different. It's just boring. It's just dull. I don't know.
Yeah.
And my last one, to agree with Derek, and I don't want to make it sound like I hate this game, but it's just, Hellblade. I played it, and there were times where I found myself looking at my phone for extended periods of time while something going on, or
Ouch.
I'm stuck in an area trying to do this stupid puzzle for 10 minutes. I can't figure out what to do. Then I got to look it up. If I have to look stuff up for a game and it's not like a huge game like Zelda or Witcher or something because I want to do everything, then maybe there's a problem. Maybe, at least for me, maybe things aren't set up the right way. Because did you guys ever get stuck on those puzzles?
I
Yeah,
got stuck
a
on
few
every
times.
single one of those puzzles, but I suck at puzzles,
Oh
so
my
that's just
God.
me.
Well,
Anyway,
some of
those are
it
just a
was
few.
just you would be looking at it and you had
Yeah.
to tilt it like that,
Yep.
otherwise it wouldn't read it. And I was like, come on, guys.
It drove
Seriously?
me crazy. And the story, after playing a game I don't know, I was talking about Pyre earlier. I love the story, and that was really deep, a lot of lore. And I know everyone loves the story in Hellblade, but I feel like on the outs on that one. I don't really understand why everyone loves it so much. But yeah.
It's an
That was
indie
the
AAA
community
darling.
consensus.
Yeah.
That was the community consensus. Was the most disappointing game of the year was Hellblade.
Wow.
Oh, man.
Jesse White is
followed.
leaving the group as we speak. He's leaving the group as we
Closely
speak. Jesse, can I just say, I love that game. I was a big fan of it. But
So do
I'm
I.
not gonna
Kyle
disagree.
and I got your back.
Oh,
we got
good,
your back,
Tim.
man.
Thank you, Tim. We're gonna
Yeah.
take this game far, right?
That's right. We'll fight for
Yes,
it.
you
Followed by
you guys
games.
enjoy your hell trash. I'm moving on to better stuff.
Hey, I will say that
By
every
the way-
puzzle in that game made me completely furious, but so does every puzzle in every game, so that's not really...
Yeah,
Don't make me
I'm not a puzzle guy, but it wasn't just the puzzles. It was everything. But that's
I understand why people like it. It
Oh,
has
yeah.
a really good idea behind it. It's very creative. I understand all that. I just personally didn't love it. I felt like I wasted 6 hours.
For the TGT Community Award for most disappointing game, it was Hellblade.
God.
But it was closely followed by
Oh,
games
God.
such as Battlefront 2,
Oh.
Mass Effect Andromeda got a lot of picks for that
Screw
too.
you
Jesse's-
guys.
Jess-
Mass Effect
Jesse's gonna
Andromeda's
see
amazing.
Come on.
But
Do we have
Hellblade,
any Mass Effect haters on this panel right now?
no.
No, not me.
Wow.
Unless
Yeah.
you are, Kyle.
No, absolutely not. That game ranked very
No,
high
but-
for me, so...
But listen,
No, we all
I
had fun
said-
with it. So
I said some negative things about Hellblade, and so did Derek. But I think Battlefront 2 is way worse than that game. I mean, if we're really
Battlefront
looking at it.
2. Kyle, go ahead and talk, and then I'll talk.
I don't know, man. I played and beat. I got Star Wars rose-tinted glasses on big time right now. Last Jedi's gonna come out 24 hours as we're recording this, so I'm very
Yeah.
excited. And
I'm
playing through
excited.
that story, I was fine with. But I don't find myself going back to the multiplayer very much. I'll probably pick it back up to play the new levels, but I'm not really a multiplayer guy. I kind of really just
Yeah.
bought that game
Sure,
to play the
sure.
story and to play a multiplayer game every once
And
in
to
a
be
while.
fair, I didn't finish it. To be fair, I mean, I just want to make that clear. I only played a few missions, and I just
I
really
feel
didn't
the
enjoy it.
same way
Mhm.
Rudy did. Now, I didn't put it as my most disappointing because I said what I said about Hell Trash. But Star Wars Battlefront 2 was kind of like what Kyle said about For Honor. If you play the For Honor campaign, all it is a prep prepping you to play the multiplayer. And that's because it's a multiplayer game, mainly.
Sure.
Same thing with Star Wars. While I know it had a story and I didn't finish it, and so Kyle probably loves the story. I might even love the story. I don't even have a real issue with the story so far. My issue is the gameplay. It's just, it felt like they're like, oh, we better make a story or a single-player campaign. So let's just do everything you guys do in the multiplayer. Let's just put it in the campaign and then put a story on it. And it felt tacked on instead of really feeling like I'm playing an actual campaign. It felt like this is just training mode for multiplayer. That's just my take.
Yeah.
All right, well, just to give you guys an update on the creative game vote, too, I forgot to tell you that. The community picked, it's actually a tie between Cuphead and Super Mario Galaxy.
How did we not pick Cuphead?
I'm sorry, Mario Odyssey. Mario Odyssey. Cuphead and Odyssey. Yeah.
How did we not talk about Cuphead? Holy crap.
Yeah, I don't even
to me,
care
it's
about
not that
Cuphead. How is it not on that list at all?
It actually, I'll be honest, Cuphead was actually Cuphead's pretty high on my list of most disappointing games, and we'll talk about that later.
Rudy loved Cuphead, but Kyle, did you like Cuphead? Did you play it?
I like Cuphead, yeah. I played it. I enjoyed it.
I love Cuphead.
I think it's way too hard for its own good, but again, I'm not the
I don't
best
think
video
it's I don't
game
think it's
player of all
creative gameplay wise, but it should have been brought up in our conversation. You're right. It should have been.
That's what I'm
talked
saying.
about.
I don't think it's
well,
creative
you know what,
gameplay-wise.
Tim? I don't blame you and I. I think we should fire the two guys who came on and didn't talk about it that liked it.
I agree.
Kyle,
Get
we're
him
fired,
out of
man.
here! Get him out of here! Build a wall right now.
All right, let's move on to our. This award's brought to you by Mr. T. This is the Badass Award.
Wait, Tim, can I say
And-
one last thing on the last topic quickly?
Yeah.
I
Yes.
just wanted to mention we were just talking about Battlefront, right? My problem with it, another thing just to point out is you can get a campaign from a game that's mainly multiplayer and you do a lot of the same stuff and it can still be good. And Titanfall 2 is what I think of when I think of that.
Yeah,
And it was short.
absolutely.
It was a lot of the same
Titanfall 2 is
style
a
of
great
gameplay.
campaign.
Yeah,
Totally.
but I love it. Can you stop scratching me? Jesus. Anyway, yeah, so I just wanted to throw
Yeah,
that one in
Derek,
there
stop
just that it can be done.
Kyle, stop
I would agree. Like
scratching.
even Battlefield 1, right? That one had a great
Sorry.
Yeah.
a great usage of multiplayer areas and maps on their fantastic single player
I'm
experience.
glad Rudy brought that up. Titanfall 2 does not feel tacked on. It feels like a
Yeah.
campaign. I felt like with
Totally
Battlefront 2, which I will finish it. I will be fair. I will finish it. I just felt like it
I'm
was
gonna finish
tacked
it
on.
sometime too.
All right, so let's talk about our picks for Badass Award. And guys, feel free to throw one on the nomination if you haven't yet. Here's what we have so far. And I already can think of some I'm going to get rid of. We have ARMS, Assassin's Creed Origins, Call of Duty World War II, Destiny 2, Dishonored Death of the Outsider, Fire Emblem Warriors, For Honor, Horizon Zero Dawn, Mass Effect Andromeda, Middle-earth Shadow of War, Nier Automata, Neo, Star Wars Battlefront 2, Sundered, Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon Wildlands, Uncharted The Lost Legacy, Wolfenstein 2, Wolverblade, and Yakuza 0. I'm going to kick us off and say, even though I think it's a fun game and you can feel really cool pulling off some moves, ARMS doesn't belong on the Badass Award list. You
Yeah.
good with
I
that?
agree.
Yep.
I
Yeah,
agree.
it's not
Okay.
badass.
Agreed.
Let's kick out some other ones. What else you got?
All right.
I don't care
Call
about
of Duty?
Wolverblade. So
Yeah,
unless
what about
somebody
Call
wants
of
to fight
Duty?
for it.
Does anybody want to stick up for Call of Duty World War II? I mean, do you feel any
No.
more
Yeah.
badass in that game than any other shooter?
No.
No.
Yeah, let's
Okay.
get out of there.
You're actually not
Call of
really
Duty's
a
out.
badass in Call of Duty World War II. You're not really a badass.
Right, I would
So,
say
yeah,
more in
I'm
the
fine with that.
infinite
Go
and
bye-bye.
advanced warfare that you make you feel a little more awesome, right? Because they give you
Yeah.
more abilities and stuff. I think okay. I'm okay with getting rid of Wolverblade. I've actually played it for a little while. You do feel kind of badass at times, but it's such a tough game. The difficulty level's so high, you die a lot,
Mhm.
which doesn't feel super badass when you die a lot.
Sure,
so
sure.
I'm going to suggest we get rid of
For Honor.
Wolverblade.
Let's
Which,
get For Honor out of here.
okay.
How about you?
By the way-
Just get
But
it
if
outta
you're
here.
good at that game, one
You-
more quick thought about For
touche.
Honor. If you're good at that game, you feel amazing because
Oh,
the
yeah, you
moves
feel
that
like
you
a-
can do
You
look
feel like
great.
a god
Oh,
on the
yeah.
battlefield. You could just take out sixes.
sure.
I've seen people take out an entire team, and just.
That's what
okay,
I'm
well,
saying.
It's a one-man army. Yeah.
But I am not good at that game, so I don't know what that feels like.
Yeah,
So,
touche. Same here. Yeah.
yeah.
I had suggested Yakuza. I haven't played it, but I just wasn't sure.
Yakuza 0.
Really,
Oh,
Yeah,
man.
just-
I
Everyone
mean,
knows,
if
like,
you play it,
pretty big badass in
you
that
actually
game.
are kind of a badass. I mean, you go around
okay.
beating
Yeah,
the shit
you're
out of
the
everybody.
badass. Everybody's afraid of you in that
Gotcha.
game. Like you're fighting like
Yeah.
sometimes 30 to 60 dudes at once, and you're just one guy. You're a pretty big badass in that game, and
Gotcha.
you feel
Okay,
like a
so I was-
badass while playing.
Way off.
I'll stick up for Yakuza 0. I think it belongs on there.
Can I say we kick out Battlefront 2 based on everything I've heard, or does it
Yeah.
feel pretty badass to get the
No.
heroes?
Kyle would
Kick that
have to
in there.
defend it. I don't know
No,
if
I'm not-
she's
I'm not
really a
defending that
badass
game.
in that game or not. I don't remember.
Okay.
Aiden is a very fine character. She's not badass though.
Okay.
All right.
I
cool.
have Sundered on here, but I'm guessing I'm the only one who's played it. It's a really
Yeah.
cool Metroidvania
Terrible
type
as
game.
hell.
And you power up quite a bit to the point where you do feel very badass in this giant screen full of enemies, and it's attacking real fast. There's tons of stuff going on, but I think I'm gonna have a hard time making a strong case for it because no one else has played it. But I think you feel by the end of Sundered, think about the end of a Metroid or similar type games where you've built up tons of abilities and skills, and you can just fire off all these combos. That's kind of what Sundered feels like as you get kind of deep into it. So it would be on my personal list, but I'm looking at the rest of these. We have Assassin's Creed, Destiny 2, Dishonored, Fire Emblem Warriors, Horizon, Mass Effect, Shadow of War, Nier, Neo, even Wildlands I think deserves to be on here. I have a hard time making a strong argument for Sundered. So if you guys haven't played it, I'll volunteer to move it off.
Okay.
I think Star Wars
I've
and
played it.
Sundered should go.
I think so
Okay.
too.
Yeah.
And then I'm actually
what about Uncharted
leaning
Lost
toward-
Legacy? Do you guys really feel that badass in Uncharted Lost Legacy? As good of a game as it is?
I personally didn't really compared to the
No.
mainline games. It was a good game.
I really liked it. I haven't beaten it yet, but I'm pretty far into it. It's the game I'm working on right now. I was actually waiting to get my Pro and my 4K TV to like play that game, which glad I waited.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like a badass. I mean, like but
Okay.
like I don't know, maybe not as I don't know. I don't want to go down that road. Not as badass as Drake. I definitely don't want to go down that road.
You
because
sexist.
Chloe's awesome. She's like one
Hey,
of the best characters in.
I've got an
I know, I
SJW
definitely don't
degree,
wanna
and
go-
I will come after your ass. So watch what you're saying about Uncharted Lost Legacy.
I would say keep Uncharted.
I
on
would
there
actually-
over, like.
I would vote to get rid of Fire Emblem Warriors. I get the concept of the game is you're literally killing thousands of enemies, but when I think of like being a badass, I think of like I'm just sharing where my head goes. I think of something like Wolfenstein 2, where you're just going through, plowing through
I agree with
enemies
that.
with violence. Like I'm talking violence. Whereas Fire Emblem
Yeah.
Warriors is more kind of kiddie.
It is
That's what
kitty,
I'm
yeah. I would say that's worth chopping off. Fire Emblem.
So I would actually normally, because of the difficulty level and how many friggin' times I died, I would suggest something like Wolfenstein to come off usually. But there are so many moments that I felt like the absolute boss in that game that it's hard for me to remove it. So I think it should stay on the list. I just don't think it goes very high because I think that game has a major flaw in how unbalanced the difficulty is. Playing it on medium difficulty,
Yeah.
you die a little bit too quickly. It actually takes some of the fun out of it, and it makes BJ Blazkowicz actually seem kind of weak at times when he dies so quickly. So I think that's an issue, but I think it needs to stay, especially when you do a stealth kill and you just do one swing of the hatchet and knock both guys, the guy's both legs off at the same time and then hatchet him in the chest when he's on the ground. I mean, that's
Yeah.
pretty badass.
Yeah, I think Wolfenstein 2 has a lot of moments that literally are like the definition of being a badass, you know?
What about Dishonored Death of the Outsider? Does that deserve to stay on here, Derek?
I would vote for it, but if I'm the only one who really thinks it's
No, I agree with you on that one too. I mean, you're
I thought the
setting
game
out
was
a mission.
phenomenal.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a revenge mission, and you're pretty badass. So I thought it was pretty well done. I'm trying to look through it because this is really hard because
Yeah, this is tough.
What about
I
Assassin's
guess
Creed?
Assassin's
I mean,
Creed. I was gonna say,
yeah.
are you really a badass in Assassin's Creed Origins? I thought it was a good game, obviously. I
Me
think
too,
it
yeah.
deserves all the praise it's gotten, but I don't really feel like Bayek or whatever his name was really a badass.
Yeah.
I thought he was badass.
I thought he was a badass, but like like in the old games, like you could chain together like 7 kills and feel really
All right,
cool.
now I do miss that.
And this
That's
game,
true.
you can't really do that, and I guess I just feel like he's a little handicapped because of that. Just he couldn't clear out his room as good as like past like assassins that we played as, which may minimize his badassness. I don't know.
Well, we got to get rid of 2, and I will say this. Looking at this list, here are the 3 I would think we need to talk about getting rid of. That would be Assassin's Creed Origins. Even though I just said I like Dishonored: Death of the Outsider, compared to all these other games, I think that's one of them. And Uncharted: Lost Legacy. Those would be my bottom 3 on the 11 that we have on here, or whatever we have on here.
All right, so this gives us 9, and we have one more space. So, Rudy, between Assassin's Creed, Dishonored, Death of the Outsider, and Uncharted, which would you put on there?
Assassin's Creed, Dishonored, and Uncharted was the third one you said?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You've got one open spot. Which one would you put in that spot?
I'd say Dishonored.
What about you, Kyle?
Kyle,
what do you
got? So I would probably go Uncharted personally.
What about you, Derek?
And Tim, what do you got?
I mean, I haven't played Dishonored: Death of the Outsider, but I have played the original Dishonored game, and boy, oh boy, that game, you are an absolute badass. So
I think
I have no problem with that one being on there. So I'm good with Dishonored going back on the list.
Okay, I thought you were going to make this easy, but I'll go with Dishonored as well. I actually thought you were going to say Uncharted, and I was going to say, okay, we can go with Uncharted.
No, I don't think. I mean, I didn't feel that awesome in Uncharted. I mean, I loved that game. I just didn't feel.
I feel like Uncharted, and even they do this with Nathan Drake. You are a badass, but you're really not. Like you get beat around a lot, and even
you do.
I'm forgetting her name. Not Naomi. Who's the other one?
Oh,
Chloe. Chloe gets beat up a lot, but she's still still badass, but she still gets beat up a lot. Dishonored, you don't get beat up. You're the in that game.
You're in control. I mean, you're on a mission to kill a guy who's not even freaking human at this point.
Yeah, he's a god. So yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty.
I'm
cool.
with Rudy on it.
So
I'm fine with it.
So we have our top 10. We have Destiny 2, Horizon, Mass Effect, Shadow of War, Nier, Neo, Ghost Recon Wildlands, Wolfenstein 2, Yakuza 0, and Dishonored: Death of the Outsider. So I'm going to suggest that the one we just had trouble putting in is probably in the bottom 5, Dishonored: Death of the Outsider.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
yes, but I would actually rank it higher than Ghost Recon Wildlands.
I agree with that. Although you do feel kind of badass at times when you're teamed up and you're sniping through. When you're sniping through areas together, you feel really awesome as you're tagging enemies and taking them out. But I'm with you.
I put Ghost Recon at 10 also. That sounds fair.
Okay. What about Neo? As cool as it is and as cool as you feel at times, it's a Souls type game, so you certainly are at the mercy of your enemies a lot. Do you think that one should be pretty high on the list?
You feel pretty badass when you beat a boss that you've been struggling for a bit.
True.
With, for sure.
Yeah. I think with the speed of the combat,
that feel like that.
Yeah, I feel like Neo actually needs to be pretty high.
Yeah,
I'd
probably put it in the top 5.
And I would put either Nier or Yakuza 0 in the 9 spot, but I understand some of y'all like Nier more than me. I like Yakuza
Nier,
more
I
than
felt
some of y'all.
completely badass with every character I used in Nier. So whether it's 2B or 9S, or I think it's 2A, I felt
2B
amazing
or not to
game.
be, that bitch needs to get off my list.
Dude, I love
way
Platinum
more badass
games.
in Nier than you are in Yakuza 0, even though I would say Yakuza 0. I don't know. Yakuza 0 might be good at 9. It's hard, man. You're a real badass in a lot of these games, so
yeah.
Well, you could slide up, and we would have to discuss it, but Wolfenstein 2, like Tim said, when you first start playing the game, you think it's kind of designed to play like Doom, where Doom, you're 100% a badass. Like, you're non-stop in Doom. But Wolfenstein 2, with its difficulty, you're not really a BA. You're hiding a lot, and then you have to move, and then you have to get health because you're constantly getting overwhelmed. I don't know about you guys. I died a lot. I did not feel like
I did too.
badass until I dropped it to noob level, and then I was like,
dude, I saw those Nazi quotes so many times. It would show a picture of Frau Engel staring at me, showing me her Nazi quote, and I was like, I hate her right now. I was
gonna say she was probably more of a badass just because you looked at her killing you all the time.
I know.
But, yeah.
No, I agree. The game you die a ton, no matter what difficulty you're at, you're gonna die a lot. But I kind of like think of it the way as like, okay, when you play like Dark Souls or something, let's say, right? I die so much in that game. Then when you take that freaking huge dragon down or whatever, yeah, you do feel like a badass. I had a few moments like that in Wolfenstein, maybe not to the same extent at all, but especially one scene, and not even that scene you guys were talking about earlier, a different one where you meet a certain person, like stuff like that around that area, or maybe the end of the game. That was a pretty badass moment too, the very end.
So yeah, I think Wolfenstein just at its core is a badass game, right? The whole setting, you kind of have to be awesome. The story's cool. The music's always like this driving kind of rock and roll mixed with an epic movie soundtrack, and so you feel really badass the whole time. The cutscenes are amazing. That big story twist that we're not going to spoil, but that happens makes that badass meter goes through the roof.
That's when I really felt like a badass. Yeah.
But that being said, I think about as high as I could put it, based on this list, is about 4. I don't know what you guys think about that. I think he's more of a badass than the way I felt as Aloy in Horizon. Even though she is super cool and sliding around and stabbing robots and instant killing some of them, there are certainly times you feel also very helpless and small in Horizon as well. You don't always feel super badass. So I'd put Wolfenstein above that, and then the top 3 I put in there, and I'm totally willing to move these around. I put Shadow of War at number 1, Neo at number 2, and Mass Effect Andromeda. Again, this is once you're powered up in games like Neo and Mass Effect especially. I think those 2 are pretty
I'm
high
fine with that, just because Shadow of War, you're basically almost like a god. Like you get so powerful in that
You're
game.
You're the most badass character
everything.
in that game.
Yeah,
I'm okay
I think
with
that game definitely deserves the number 1
Well, and
spot.
I felt like even as the game wrapped up, you guys have all played Shadow of War?
Yeah,
I haven't played it.
Oh, Rudy hasn't. Okay, well, I won't spoil it, but there's a change in the way your powers are whatever. There's a change at the end, and that to me just kind of upped the ante on how cool your character was. So totally. I really like. I just think that's the ultimate feeling of badass. As you walk, you could just stroll normal speed into this group of orcs and just tear them all apart, and it's amazing. It just feels so cool. So
I don't think anything needs to move. I think this is a good list, but it's up to you guys.
It's a good list.
Yeah, no,
I think it's a solid.
So for you listeners, here's where we've landed with our Badass Award for 2017. Middle-earth Shadow of War at number 1, then Neo, Mass Effect Andromeda, Wolfenstein 2 The New Colossus, Horizon Zero Dawn, Nier Automata, Destiny 2, Dishonored Death of the Outsider, Yakuza 0, and Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon Wildlands. There's your top 10 right
Now,
there.
if you kill the Predator, then Tom Clancy automatically moves up to the number 1 spot.
Is that added now? They announced that, right? The Predator's coming out.
Yeah, I'm still confused of what exactly
tomorrow.
that is. Is it a mode? Like, is someone playing as the Predator and hunting down everybody, or what's?
I
what is it?
think
I think
the Predator is controlled by the game, the AI, which I think would be better. I would rather it be
That's
AI.
way cooler. Yeah, and oh man, okay,
I
cool.
think. I'm real excited to try it. I'm going to try it.
So we need to push on to the next category. On to most stylish game of the year. This is a new category for us at least. The idea here being it's not just is it pretty to look at, it's not just is it fun to play, it's as you play it, there's just undeniable style to what they did in this game, right? We described it some earlier with some of the other categories. Here are some of the nominees we have so far. Absolver, ARMS, Cuphead, Golf Story, Gravity Rush 2, Hollow Knight, Horizon, Mario plus Rabbids, Matterfall, Nex Machina, Nier, Persona 5, Pyre, Snipperclips, Splatoon 2, SteamWorld Dig 2, Sundered, Super Mario Odyssey, Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, Wolfenstein 2, Wolverblade, Xenoblade Chronicles 2, and The Sexy Brutale. That's a big list. That's a big list.
That's a
okay.
lot. Yeah.
So we've addressed a few of these already.
All right, let's try to define stylish. What are we looking for? I know we talked about Persona 5 would be considered stylish.
Right.
Sure.
What else?
It's this is of all the categories, this is one of the more subjective ones, although I do think we can kind of argue away to a top 10. The idea being it's consistent, that's number 1. But number 2 is it's got this own unique flavor, and I'll use the example of Persona 5, since I think we all agree Persona 5 will be on this list. Yes. Persona 5 is one of the kind of quintessential stylish games, right? Because everything from the combat to the music to the way the characters look and talk and move, it's all got a very unique Persona style. When you see it, you know exactly what it is. That's why a game like, no offense to it, a game like Call of Duty isn't on here. Not because it's not a great looking game, but because it doesn't have its own unique special style, compared to
Okay.
other Call of Duties or other shooters, right? So I'm going to say games like Cuphead, Persona 5, Pyre, these games will probably be on the top 10 list because they carry a unique style with them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
So let's just kind of go through the list here. Do we think that any of you play Absolver? Because I'm going to nominate to get rid of that one if you haven't.
I've played Absolver.
I have not.
I enjoy it. I don't think it's got enough style to compete against other 10 on this list.
Okay. I do think ARMS has a very unique style, and unless we are struggling to, trim out a game, I suggest we keep ARMS in there for now.
Okay. Keep it for now, but I have
It's low on the list, but I think it deserves to stay, and I think Cuphead is an undeniable pick for the top 10.
Yeah, that's
absolutely.
gotta be on there. How about Golf Story?
Golf Story, again, I think it has great style if you're into the pixelated, views of things. I just don't know that it. First of all, it's not.
I feel like it
consistent
looks
across the
like an
board.
old game though. Like it's not like it's something fresh and new. It just feel like it. Just
And it doesn't
looks like
have
an
to
old
be
game.
fresh and new, but at the same time, it also doesn't. It doesn't have. It doesn't. It's okay if it's pixelated, but I'm with you. It doesn't have that. Like Hotline Miami was a very stylish pixelated game.
Absolutely. Great
Oh, yeah,
example.
definitely.
Golf Story, not really in that. So I'm okay with getting rid of Golf Story for this one.
Sure.
I didn't play Gravity Rush 2. What do we think about that one?
Gravity Rush 2 has got
I
a
didn't play
lot
that
of
one
style. It's a very stylistic game for sure. I would maybe keep it on there, and then if we're hurting to cut stuff off, maybe that'd be one of the first ones.
I know Hollow Knight looks gorgeous. I know Rudy's played it.
Yeah, I've played
Yeah.
that one a bit.
Oh,
I
that's
think
awesome.
it's very stylish. It's it almost does like if you feel like you've seen this before, but as you're playing, the way things like look and the little the reflections and the lights and everything, it looks really great, unlike anything I've seen. So I'd say at least keep it on the top 10 for now.
Okay. I don't think we should boot off Horizon or Mario plus Rabbids just yet. We can come back to those.
I think we should get rid of Super Mario Odyssey. Why is that stylish?
Yeah.
I would argue that it's one of the more stylish Mario games ever made. I don't think it's the most stylish game of the year or even in the top 10 necessarily.
Yeah.
Just in
We can
terms
get rid
of
that.
We can get rid of
yeah.
that one.
We don't have to say too much more about it. We can just cut it for now. Okay.
I think Zelda's art style should stay on for now, though.
Yeah, that's why I was willing to get rid of Mario.
What do we think about Splatoon 2?
I really don't like the style of that game. I just think
don't
I really
like
don't like
the
the art
style
style.
of that game.
That's just my opinion.
I don't like the art
it
style. I
absolutely
don't
have
like
its
the
own
characters.
style.
I don't like Splatoon.
Yeah,
I
I'm not a
think we
fan
all-
of the
I think we all
character
agree.
design. Okay, cool. Yeah.
That was easy.
I will say this. I know you guys are going to say Snipper Clips is stylish, but I think it's stylish in an ugly way. So I am not for Snipper Clips.
It's not a top 10 stylish game, I'll be honest with you.
Yeah.
It's got a
I
cool
agree.
look, but we don't have to say much more than that. It got its love already. I think Snipper Clips can come off this list.
Yeah, we can take that off.
I do think SteamWorld Dig 2 should stay for the moment. That game is...
I agree.
What about Matterfall?
Super
I didn't play that game,
Yeah,
but I do remember
I
it
was
being
gonna say,
pretty
I haven't played that one
stylish.
yet.
I didn't
play
play Matterfall either.
I actually
I didn't
don't
play it
even
either.
know what it looks like.
Let's just get it off there then. If no
All
one's
right.
played
What
it.
about
sorry,
next
sorry those of you who like
Machina?
Housemark.
Do y'all care
Matterfall's-
about Next Machina or whatever it's called?
I've never played it.
Oh wait,
I never played it.
this one I do think, especially the explosions are like the most amazing thing I've ever seen in my life. I don't know. If
I've
I'm
seen
the
video
only
clips
one-
of it, right? Where all the little blue wires come shooting out of everything,
yeah,
right?
it's really crazy how the
Well,
game looks.
We have a one indie game rule, so you're either going to get rid of Next Machina or
Jeez.
Pyra.
Definitely
If that's
not.
the case, then next
Um,
Machina.
I love
I just-
my time so far with Xenoblade Chronicles 2, but does that deserve to be on here for best style?
I
know
think it looks like every other
well-
Japanese anime. I love this game, so don't take this out of context.
I know.
but this looks like every
Objectively,
other
I want to
Japanese
fight
game.
you, or I want to say this. Subjectively, I want to fight you on this, but I was even gonna call it out because I was like, it doesn't do anything different from most JRPGs. Whereas Persona
Yeah.
5, I can't say that. Persona 5
Right.
is extremely stylish.
Okay.
How
Yeah,
about
I mean,
Wolfenstein
if
2?
you told me that Xenoblade was a Tales game, I'd been like, yeah, I believe that. You know,
Yeah.
and I like both of
Yeah.
those series.
I-
you know, they got
Yeah.
the kind of similar look.
I think Wolfenstein 2 could go.
I think so too. I think it looks. There's nothing really stylistic about it. I think you go to some really cool locales, especially later.
I think it's super stylish as an alternate history type of a game, but again, it looks a lot like the first game did. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Should we punish it for that? I don't know, but again, it's hard to make a case for it when
Well,
you've got stuff
we're gonna
like
have to punish
Nier.
some games because we've got
Yeah.
15 and we need to get.
I think
10.
I think Wolverblade should stay. It's one of the things it's got going for it, where it really looks like a
I think
a
Sexy
paper
Brutal
cutout
should stay
thing.
too.
Yeah,
Have you guys
I
seen
agree
Sexy
with
Brutal?
Yeah.
that.
Dude, I started playing
Yeah.
that. That game is stylish as. Hey.
Yeah.
Oh, you almost cussed him. I'm proud of you.
Thanks, buddy.
How about Sundered? I haven't played that one. I don't even know what that looks like.
So Sundered kind of again, that's the Metroidvania style game. It
Oh,
kind
yeah,
of
yeah.
it kind of
Get
has.
it
I think it's
outta
incredibly
here.
stylish. It's got
Get it outta here.
hand drawn animations for the main character, all their animations, and all the enemies. It's incredibly stylish.
And just so you guys know, when we did the badass category, Tim actually wrote down bad booty. He did not want to write ass. He was afraid to write ass. So I had
No, it
I
said-
had to edit because he
It said
was
bad
afraid.
rear end.
great.
All right. I think. Oh man, this is gonna be kind of tough.
I think you know what I can budge on next Machina. I'm the only one, so we can.
Yeah,
You sure?
I think we got to come to this as a group. So I think if only one person has played certain games, I think they got to go.
All right. So then Sundered and Next Machina are kind of auto kicks then, huh?
Yeah.
Oh man.
Well, technically, Wolverblade would be a kick.
I haven't
And
played.
Wolverblade.
I'm looking at Wolverblade stuff now, and I'm mad that I haven't seen
Dude,
this. Like, on, like, Switch and
Wolverblade
stuff
is
like that.
it's a visual kind of like
I would
can't
love
think
to
of the
play
right
this
word.
game. Like,
it's
I
very
love
visually
side-scrollers.
appealing. Dude, it's super tough. It's a tough game, but visually, just
Really? Okay.
stylistically,
Sounds
it's
like
very, very
more
cool.
interesting to me.
And
Well,
it's historic,
okay,
by the way.
If we
got
got
some-
rid of Wolverblade, I'm not saying we have, but if we did, we still have 12 games, not including
Yeah,
Wolverblade.
so-
So we still have to drop 2 others. So we got to decide.
All right, so
Um,
here's what we have left. We've got ARMS, Cuphead, Gravity Rush 2, Hollow Knight, Horizon, Mario plus Rabbids, Nier, Persona 5, Pyre, SteamWorld Dig 2, Zelda, and the Sexy Brutal. Can we
Alright,
get rid of Horizon?
Yeah. I was gonna say that, but before you even do Horizon,
Man.
I think Hollow Knight and SteamWorld Dig are both the same levels of style.
So
if
we
you
got to
ask me
pick one.
personally.
So let's bring it down between those two then.
I think Kyle and I want Horizon to stay.
I think I want Horizon to stay too. Yeah.
I want
Okay, so if
Horizon
we-
to stay. I'm
so
just
if we wanna
looking for
get-
Kyle to support me.
If we want to get rid of
yeah. Well, you've
We're gonna
got
get rid of
support,
either
my friend.
Hollow Knight or SteamWorld Dig 2. We got to get rid of one of those. I've only played SteamWorld Dig 2, and I think that thing is completely.
Yeah. We
stylish.
can take off Hollow Knight.
Keep
That's fine.
SteamWorld and take off Hollow Knight, I guess.
I mean, Rudy, you're caving on all these. Are you sure? You good?
I just feel like Hollow Knight when I look at that game and I look at SteamWorld, they almost look similar to me. So
Okay.
I don't really care either way on that one. By the
Okay.
way, is Hollow Knight actually out on Switch? Or
Next
am I-
year. Next year.
Oh god,
Yeah.
I want to get that on Switch. Anyway.
Yeah. Do we feel okay about ARMS being in the top 10? Do you think that's got enough style to it?
No, I'm cool with
I-
Arms
I-
actually
I- you can-
leaving.
Okay, good.
yeah,
I'm
you
just
can
making
get rid of
sure
ARMS,
because
yeah.
I think it belongs in the top 5. Actually, I'm just making sure you guys are.
All
seeing
right,
if you're
well,
with
then
me.
the
What do you
last
say,
thing-
Rudy? With Arms.
I think I agree Arms should be in there. I don't know if it should be like the top 3 or anything. Maybe just under there, I'd say.
Okay.
But I know we're not doing that yet. But yeah, I agree Arms can stay.
All right, let me
Um,
ask this question: is Arms more worthy than Sexy Brutal?
Oh.
From what I've seen, I don't know.
Dude, they both
Good
need
luck.
to be on that list. And this is gonna sound crazy. I'd kick off Zelda before I'd kick off either of those two for just style.
Fair enough.
I don't know, but I feel like Zelda's very stylish.
It definitely
Really
is.
Stylish.
I mean, I'd kick off
Oh, yeah,
Horizon
I'm
and
looking at
Zelda.
I'm looking at Sexy Brutal now. Yeah.
Why are we not talking about
Wow.
kicking off Mario and Rabbids? How is that stylish?
I was just looking at that. Yeah, let's talk
Oh,
about
did-
that. You know, I think it's
I-
really
That must have slipped
stylish
past me.
for clashing.
If you'll
those
let
two
me
things
keep
together.
Sexy Brutal and ARMS, I'll get rid of Mario plus Rabbids. I'm fine with
All
that.
right, get rid of
Alright.
Mario.
Done. Get rid of it.
All right, that's our 10
oh,
then, right?
Wolverblade looks awesome. I gotta
Cool.
try this out. Holy
Is
crap.
everybody fine? Nobody is bitter right now, right?
No, we kept
All right,
Horizon.
well,
That's what
okay.
I was worried
I'm-
about too.
I'm not bitter, but I am gonna say that Wolverblade looks just like Hollow Knight. I don't mean the way the game plays. I just mean literally the way it looks. So if
Yeah.
that will help anything, you can take that into account, I guess.
I think those
All
are
right,
both
so we
fun,
have. Let me read the 10 we have left, and then I want to make sure that everyone's got at least something that they would argue as being, yeah, this is amazingly stylish on here. We've got Arms, Cuphead, Gravity Rush 2, Horizon Zero Dawn, Nier, Persona 5, Pyre, SteamWorld Dig 2, Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, and Sexy Brutale. Does everyone feel good about at least a couple on that list?
Wait, am I
Yes.
the only one who played Gravity Rush 2? Because if I am, we can get that off for something that everyone likes more.
I haven't played it, but I agree.
I
That game
didn't
is definitely
play
stylish.
it, but I know that game is stylish. Just like Cuphead.
I've watched enough videos of it to say,
stylish.
even just from
Okay,
watching
alright,
videos,
fair enough.
I know it deserves a top 10 spot just from seeing videos of
Right.
it. I know that.
Okay, that's fair.
All right,
Rudy's
gonna-
playing Zelda right now as we speak.
No, I'm going to check out Wolverblade so I don't forget because I want to. That looks awesome.
Yeah, again, I'll say it
I'm
one more
the same
time.
way. I was just like, that's
Dude,
right up my alley.
Wolverblade is a really tough game. It feels like an old school arcadey game where
Oh,
it's
that's
tough.
right up my alley, man. This is perfect. All right. Anyway,
It's very tough. Okay.
All right.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna suggest that Zelda's towards the bottom of this list based on just style alone compared to the other ones.
No,
I agree, but I think it should be at least the top half of the bottom half, if that makes any sense.
So like in
Like
the
a
6 to 7
6?
range.
6-ish, somewhere around there. And I
6,
think
7.
SteamWorld Dig.
I'm just gonna say I
Actually-
think Persona 5 should be number 1.
Yeah,
I think so
agree
too.
with that.
100%. Yeah.
Cuphead should be
and maybe
2.
Horizon at 5. I mean, or 5 or 7 feels good since we were split on that for
I
Horizon.
still
would-
think
I would-
Horizon the
I
bottom.
would put Horizon at 10, to be honest.
Yeah,
I just don't compared to these other games. I just
Sure,
don't,
sure. I mean, I
agree.
feel you both there. That's for sure.
I
I
agree.
hate both of you. I'm blocking you after this.
Since
all the way
I
to
thought I would
Well,
fight.
I don't know
I
about-
thought
I
I
don't know
would
about
fight with
10.
Kyle the most, just because I would say to all his JRPG games like they're all trash. But it's really Rudy and Tim that I want to kill right now.
We still have
I
2
think
more
that,
episodes left, so it's all right.
Yeah, I know. We'll fight eventually.
I think
Yeah,
that
we'll
the
get
sexy brutale is basically a clue board brought to life in a sense, where you kind of navigate
Yeah.
around and,
I think
and
it
solve
looks
these mysteries.
spectacular. I haven't played it, but I think
yeah.
Sexy
Me too.
Hotel looks spectacular.
I'm looking at stuff right now, and it looks really good.
But I
I
think
was
Cuphead
almost
deserves a number
bought
2. I think Cuphead deserves the number 2 spot. To me, it's
I think so too.
better. I think
I
it's the
agree
most
with that.
stylish game of the year over Persona 5, but I
think-
won't argue because Persona 5 is the.
I think
is
that
love.
Nier needs to be at number 9. I don't think compared to these other games that it's
I'd actually put
Like-
Horizon ahead of Nier.
I
just
would too,
like the
personally.
style of
Yeah,
Horizon.
those
I
can
love
be
the
interchanged
world.
for me.
I love the dinosaurs, the robot dinosaurs. I think it's
Same here. I like the
deserves a little more
Nordic.
credit.
I like the Nordic armor and culture type of stuff also, and I like all that stuff. But yeah, that looks good. 9 and 10. Horizon.
Tim, how do you feel about that?
SteamWorld
You
Dig
don't wanna
2 sitting at
go
number
switch-
8.
Yes,
I
yeah,
can live with that.
I think
Maybe
Pyre
Gravity
needs to
Rush at
be-
7.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. And I think Pyre should be 4, unless any.
Yeah, I think
I'm okay
Pyre's
with-
more
I'm okay with
stylish
that.
than Arms, in my opinion.
Well, I think Zelda should be ahead of Arms.
I can see that one a little bit.
I
Just
just
that
think
one
it's
switch.
yeah.
I
think
disagree.
it's more
I think I'm gonna go to bat for Tim on this one and say Arms should probably be in the top.
I think
5,
Arms is a
if we're
more
talking pure
stylish game
style.
than Zelda. It's the only thing it's got over a game like Zelda.
Oh,
It's
well,
style.
this is. Hey, Rudy, stick with me for a second.
Yeah,
Watch.
I'm with you. I'm
We're
with you. Derek.
split.
You're
Are we-
leading.
Are we
Let's
going to
go
Metacritic?
Metacritic.
Oh,
and I
jeez.
already
All right, I'm just
know
gonna-
who's won.
I'm just gonna
Oh
move
my
it.
God.
Before,
I'm just gonna move it now.
before we even get hold on.
Tim's like, I'm not even gonna check.
Forget it. Forget
Not
it.
even gonna look it up.
Forget it.
I was gonna say before we even.
This
go
is
to
why I
Metacritic.
like that I'm a Zelda fan, because I can literally win almost every argument. I just need
You
one
could.
person to be with me.
You see, yeah, you
and
need
then we
one
go to
person on your
Metacritic
side.
and I
Yeah.
win.
Alright,
Yeah.
if this had been a different Zelda game, I wouldn't feel so strong about it. But this one and Wind Waker, maybe I would just.
Yeah,
just
man, those
stick
two
up
are the
now.
most stylish. I mean, it's not even just the most stylish for Zelda games. They're stylish for all games. They're very well done. They've got a
Yeah, I
nice
agree.
artistic touch to them.
They do.
Sorry, Arms.
All right, well, let me read off our top 5 most stylish games of 2017. At number 1, we have Persona, followed by Cuphead, The Sexy Brutale, Pyre, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, Arms, Gravity Rush 2, SteamWorld Dig 2, Horizon Zero Dawn, and Nier Automata.
And by the way, apparently I'm a
Sweet.
Persona 5 fan, so I'm going to go back to playing that game because I keep
Ah,
putting
that
it
game's so
in every
underrated.
list.
It's
I know,
so
what's your
good.
problem?
I mean,
I'm sure it is. Everyone says it's great. I just like The Witcher 3. I know, blasphemy, that I haven't played that game.
Ain't nobody got
almost-
time for
come
that,
on.
man.
I almost blocked Rudy today over that.
Take a year off and go play that game.
Yeah.
Yes, seriously, I need to.
All right, guys, this is Tim, and I am just here to let you know this is where we cut the episode. We decided to, we had some scheduling things that happened, so we had to move on here. So we will record again later this week as we dive into more categories like best music, visuals, best story, best hero, all that kind of stuff. So we're really excited to do that. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this week's debate, and feel free to chime in, give us your thoughts on who should have won the categories we picked. And that's pretty much it. Have a great week. We'll talk to you guys next time.
Who is your daddy? I am the father.
You fathers will understand.
My father taught me many things.
I got an idea. How about you all sit there quietly while I make dad noises?